Before you buy a Gibson Les Paul, you might want to check this out. I'll tell you all about it here on Plain Trade Guitars. Hey, it's John, and if you like new guitar reviews and informative buyer's guides, go ahead and hit subscribe and join this community of guitar players. Today I'm breaking down the Heritage H-150. I put it on the bench and pulled it apart, so we'll talk specs. Of course, I'm going to plug it in and play it. I'll give you a full performance, and then at the end, stick with me because I'll give you my honest, raw reaction to playing this guitar, along with the final score. We'll talk about what's similar and different from the Gibson Les Paul Standard, and subscribe because I'll also have a head-to-head comparison coming with the Gibson Les Paul Standard 50s. But today we're focused on the Heritage H-150. And I'll tell you what, Heritage is highly regarded for making beautiful guitars in the former Gibson factory in Kalamazoo, Michigan. They've been in business for 40 years and they were former Gibson employees who, when Gibson went on down to Nashville, they stayed behind in Michigan and have been operating in the former Gibson factory ever since. That's the same factory where they made iconic burst Les Pauls of the 50s that go for the big, big bucks, as we all know. And just look at the beautiful craftsmanship of this guitar. So obviously it's Les Paul style. They can't call it a Les Paul. You can see it's got the iconic Heritage headstock, but it's basically got most all of what you'd expect out of a Les Paul. So let's break that down now. We've got a full gloss nitrocellulose finish. This guitar is made in America. You've got a bone nut here, beautiful rosewood fretboard, acrylic trapezoid inlays with a bound fretboard with the fret nibs, just like a Gibson Les Paul Standard. Bound body, as expected, it is mahogany with that maple cap, carved top. And you got a set of Seymour Duncan 59 pickups. Great sounding PAF style set of pickups. You do have a long neck tenon in the construction, and these read 8.0 in bridge and 7.2 in neck. You have these Heritage branded, looks like Grover tuners, and made in the USA. And I'll give you a look under the hood. All hand wired. If you are in the market for this guitar or any other gear, click to buy new gear using my link. It's a win-win for all of us. You're gonna get fast free shipping and easy payment plans, and you also help me make these videos, so I really appreciate your support. The neck profile here is a beefier 50s profile neck. It feels really good in the hands. And you can see the truss rod here looks a lot like a Gibson truss rod. This is a bone nut. This is 1.69 inches. We have a first fret reading of 0.88 inches up to 0.99 inches at the 12th, 2.05 inches thick here. And you know, something about the Heritage sunburst finishes, it's so vibrant. I mean, check out how vibrant that color is. You also have a lot of character in this maple top. You got some flame and it's got different character from a variety of angles and directions, and it's just an absolute stunner. And here's the thing, it's a fraction of the price of a Gibson Les Paul Standard. So let me show you real quick here. The H-150 is at $19.99. There's a cherry sunburst, a beautiful dirty lemon burst, there's an original sunburst, and there's an ebony. So for under $2,000, you are getting the H-150. Compare that, for example, to the Gibson Les Paul Standard. Now look, I love a Gibson Les Paul Standard, don't get me wrong, but here we are at $27.99. So we're talking about quite the savings if you can consider the Heritage brand. And I mean, how cool is this? It is high quality stuff. They are not messing around. You're really gonna wanna focus on the neck feel, which is gonna be a thicker 50s neck profile. So if you do like a slim neck, probably the Gibson Les Paul Standard 60s is gonna be a better bet for you. It absolutely feels fantastic in the hands. This one was 9.6 pounds, so a fair Les Paul weight for sure. And it's just what you'd expect out of a guitar that they can't technically call a Les Paul, but I can call it Les Paul-esque. So that's what it is, right? That's the Heritage H-150. This guitar community is growing quickly thanks to all of you, and I'll tell you what, this red Gibson Les Paul over my shoulder is going to one of you when we hit 100,000 subscribers. That's right. You've got to subscribe to win, but hit subscribe now and you won't miss any new guitar reviews. And like I said, I've got a head-to-head comparison of this guitar with a Gibson Les Paul Standard 50s on deck, so that's all coming up. Let's get plugged in. I'll show you clean tones, we'll dirty it up, and then I'll let it sing behind a track. On the other side, I'll give you my honest, raw reaction to playing this guitar, along with the final score. Let's get plugged in, drop a comment as we go. I'll see you on the other side for my thoughts. Time to plug it in. I'm super pumped about this one. gotta tell you what, I love those Seymour Duncan 59 pickups. Great set of PAF style humbuckers that sound fantastic. What did you think? Drop a comment, I'd love to hear from you. A lot of fun playing this guitar. I can't wait to compare it to the Gibson Les Paul Standard. So remember to hit subscribe if you haven't, because not only will you catch that review, but you'll also be in it to win it, because this Gibson Les Paul Standard is going to one of you very soon. We're closing in on 100,000 subscribers thanks to all of you. And I will remind you one more time, if you're buying these guitars, any gear, shop new gear using my link, or you can scan this QR code if you're watching on a TV, shop on your smartphone. You get fast free shipping, easy payment plans. Those payment plans makes buying new gear super easy. Trust me, it's dangerous. Check it out. All right, so thanks for doing that. Now you've stuck with me to the end, so I'm gonna give you my final score and my honest thoughts. I give a guitar a final score based on 3 categories: overall playability, overall sound, and overall value. And this is just my honest assessment after just having had it in my hands and letting it rip and seeing really what I think. So when we talk about playability, this guitar was a good weight at about 9.5 pounds, 9.6 pounds. The gloss finish was beautifully executed. There was no stick to the guitar. Remember from a playability standpoint that the neck measuring 0.88, 0.99 at the 12th is gonna be a thicker kind of 50s profile neck. It's not a super slim neck. If you like the feel of that, I like both. I see the merits of both, and they are giving you just the one neck option, so keep that in mind. So 50s profile neck is a thing to remember about the Heritage, and from that sense, it'll limit the playability for those looking for a slim neck. But it didn't bother me and it didn't get in my way. In fact, I like a thick neck because sometimes it's like a big old like pontoon boat just cutting through the water, and it just sits in your hand and it gives you a lot of stability, and you feel it. You just feel those notes shaking through your palm. And I love that about a 50s profile neck. So I don't have any complaints. I will just point out that if you like a slim neck, you're not gonna find it here. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 9.0 on overall playability. Then when it came to sound, look, they're doing a Les Paul style guitar and they're keeping it real simple. They're having Seymour Duncan 59s across the board in these, and that is a great choice. You cannot go wrong with the Seymour Duncan 59s. Excellent pickups, and they sounded fantastic in this guitar. They have a nice round tone, warm but also singing. I always describe the Seymour Duncan 59s as like they have like a natural compression going on where it just makes it really well and well-rounded sounding. So never a complaint do I have about the Seymour Duncans. And then even unplugged, this guitar just really rang. A nice resonant Les Paul style guitar with great pickups. No nonsense controls, everything hand wired, everything top notch. So from a sound standpoint, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a high score of, I'll give it a 9.2 on overall sound. And then when it comes to value, we have kind of a runaway winner here because it's under $2,000. You have a beautiful hard shell case that comes with the guitar, and you have all the hallmarks of what a Gibson Les Paul Standard is. It doesn't have a Gibson headstock. It doesn't say Gibson on it. They can't call it a Les Paul, and it has a slightly different body shape. But at the end of the day, this is essentially a made in the USA, high quality guitar. Heritage has been well regarded for 40 years. I mean, the guys who left Gibson were making top of the line Gibson guitars and stayed behind in Kalamazoo to do their own thing. And because of that, you are now having the expertise of people who started Heritage, who had decades and decades and decades of experience with Gibson, doing the Gibson thing at Heritage in the Kalamazoo factory that Gibson used to occupy. I mean, very cool story with Heritage. And I think everybody that I've talked to about Heritage, that really resonates with people. So this has given you, I think, just a great attention to detail and great execution. Beautiful out of the box. I mean, setup was perfect out of the box. So from a value standpoint, I mean, we're smoking Gibson's price by $800, right? So if you want to save some money, if you can forego the Gibson mustache headstock and brand and forego the use of Les Paul, which they cannot call this guitar, you're saving yourself like $800 for a top quality Les Paul style guitar in the H-150. I'm gonna give this a super high value score. Gosh, I'm gonna give this, my almost perfect score is like 9.6 because I always like to leave room to push these brands. But I will go ahead and give this guitar a 9.7 on overall value because they're nailing everything you'd expect out of an iconic LP standard, so to speak, for less money, and it's made in America. hard shell case. I mean, what could you possibly argue with? So that's gonna be a 9.7 on overall value. I have been a fan of Heritage guitars for years and years. And for a good reason. They make fantastic guitars. Now, like I said, Heritage they did sell a majority stake of the company in 2016. At that time, they did modernize some of the production equipment. I don't know exactly what that entails, but I would imagine it's much like the Gibson USA factory now, with more CNC machines, more kind of raw cutting of bodies and necks. You still have to hand finish those, and you still have to have the expertise to do it all right and do it flawlessly, because there's a lot of steps in making a Les Paul, or a Les Paul style guitar, shall we say. And they've executed beautifully. I mean, there's just nothing to complain about with this guitar. Excellent work from Heritage. I would definitely endorse this guitar and recommend it. For under $2,000, the H-150 is an excellent choice for your collection. Supplement your existing Gibson collection, or if you're trying to save some money and get a high quality Les Paul style guitar for less, you can skip Gibson and go with Heritage. All the great players out there know the secret is out. Heritage is where it's at. If you want to save some money and get a top of the line Gibson style guitar, Heritage has been the place to go. I'll remind you one more time to hit subscribe and shop new gear using my link or scan this QR code. That brings us to an overall score for the Heritage H-150 of 9.3. Very high score, very respectable company. Congratulations to Heritage, 40 years in business. Excellent quality, excellent sound, enough said. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Drop a comment. I'll talk to you in the comments. And stick around. Hit subscribe, because I'm going to have that head-to-head with a Gibson Les Paul Standard very soon. So until next time, it's John for Play and Trade Guitars. Thanks for watching, and keep playing.